What happened when Meghan Markle and Kate Middleton finally faced each other on live television stunned the world. Before millions of viewers, what began as a calm discussion erupted into a fiery showdown. Accusations were made, secrets revealed, and reputations shattered. But in the end, only one woman walked away victorious, and her words left Kate frozen in silence. To understand the weight of this confrontation, you must first know the women at its center. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, a woman who defied centuries of royal protocol by stepping back from the gilded cage of tradition. Fierce, outspoken, and unwilling to remain silent in the face of injustice, Meghan has become a symbol of modernity and reform. On the other side stood Kate Middleton, Princess of Wales, the embodiment of royal steadiness, discipline, and dignity. Reserved and poised, Kate represents continuity, the promise of the monarchy's endurance through grace and silence. For years, whispers of tension between the two swirled through tabloids and living rooms alike, but on this night, the whispers became unignorable. For the first time, Meghan and Kate faced each other in a televised forum, not just as sisters-in-law, but as adversaries in a war over the soul of the monarchy itself. The moderator's question was simple, yet incendiary. Does the monarchy still serve the people in today's world? Kate took the microphone first. Her voice polished, her words practiced. She spoke of heritage, of responsibility, of tradition passed through centuries. The audience nodded politely, comforted by her composure. But then her tone sharpened, her gaze turning deliberately toward Meghan. Abandoning one's duty in pursuit of independence is not a reform. It is an abdication of responsibility. We cannot claim to modernize by walking away from what binds us to service. The crowd murmured, their attention snapping toward Meghan. For a moment, silence filled the room. Meghan leaned slightly forward, her expression unreadable, her hands folded in calm restraint. The accusation was clear. Kate had framed Meghan's departure from royal duties as betrayal, not just to the monarchy, but to the nation itself. The cameras caught Kate's faint smile, a look of quiet satisfaction, as if she had landed a decisive blow before the battle had even begun. But then Meghan lifted her chin. Slowly, deliberately, she began to speak. Her voice was steady, not defensive, but charged with a quiet fire. Silence in the face of injustice, Meghan said, is also an abandonment of responsibility. Gasps echoed across the room. The first counterstrike had landed. Meghan had not just defended herself, she had turned the question back toward Kate and the institution she represented. The tension tightened, and the stage was no longer a polite forum. It was an arena, and the battle lines were drawn. Kate straightened in her chair, her smile fading into a mask of composure. She attempted to regain control of the narrative, emphasizing loyalty, tradition, and the monarchy's symbolic role in uniting the people. Each word carried weight, but beneath her polished delivery was a subtle urgency. She could feel the tide shifting. Meghan listened quietly, her eyes never leaving Kate, and when Kate finished, she did not rush. She paused, allowing the silence itself to build tension. Then, with deliberate precision, she spoke again. Tradition can guide us, but when tradition is used to justify silence in the face of suffering, it stops being a virtue. It becomes a shield for inaction. The words struck like a hammer. The audience shifted, some applauding, others whispering. Kate's jaw tightened. She tried to pivot, emphasizing service over self, duty over individuality. She painted Meghan's exit from royal life as a choice of personal gain over public responsibility. But Meghan remained unflustered. Service, Megan countered, her tone cutting through Kate's polished rhetoric. Service is not standing on balconies waving at cameras. Service is action. Service is using your platform to address inequality, to confront the uncomfortable truths that others prefer to bury. True service demands courage, not compliance. The room erupted. Some gasped, others applauded. Kate's expression faltered for the first time, her cheeks flushed with color. She forced a smile, attempting to project calm, but her silence stretched too long. Camera zoomed in, capturing the slight tremor in her hands as she gripped the microphone tighter. Kate attempted to fight back, citing the monarchy's charitable work, the countless foundations supported by tradition. But Megan had anticipated this. She acknowledged those charities, but then pointed out the contradiction. The very institution that claimed to support mental health had once silenced her own cries for help. The audience froze, the weight of her words pressing into the air. Kate leaned forward, her voice sharper now, attempting to dismiss Megan's remarks as exaggerated grievances. But Megan did not flinch. Instead, she smiled faintly, not a smile of joy, but of control. I am not speaking in hypotheticals. I lived this. And if standing against silence makes me guilty of leaving, then I will gladly accept that guilt, because what I refuse to accept is complicity. The room shook with applause. Kate sat back, her lips pursed, her eyes darting toward the moderator as if seeking rescue. But no rescue came. Megan had seized the momentum, and the crowd knew it. Every pause Megan took felt deliberate, every glance weighted with purpose. Where Kate's words sounded rehearsed, Megan's cut through with lived conviction. The stage that once felt like Kate's kingdom was slipping from her grasp. Just as the tension seemed to plateau, Megan dropped her first bombshell. With calm precision, she referenced private correspondence, letters exchanged between herself and Kate at the height of their strained relationship. Letters, Megan revealed, in which Kate herself had questioned the monarchy's outdated protocols, admitting in her own words that the system often feels suffocating. The audience froze. A sharp gasp rolled across the room. Kate's face blanched, her carefully maintained composure cracking in real time. She shook her head, whispering into her microphone, "That's not the full context." But the damage was done. The revelation dismantled her narrative. Kate, who had positioned herself as the unflinching guardian of tradition, was now exposed as someone who had privately doubted it. Megan had pulled the curtain back, revealing not just her own struggle, but Kate's hidden conflict. For a brief moment, the room was silence, the kind of silence that feels deafening. And in that silence, the power dynamic shifted irreversibly. Kate tried desperately to recover, her words faltering as she insisted her past statements were taken out of context. But Megan was relentless, her tone sharper now, though still measured. She did not raise her voice. She didn't need to. Every sentence was a blade, cutting deeper. "If even you," she said, her eyes locked on Kate, "have felt suffocated by this system, then perhaps the problem isn't me. Perhaps the problem is the institution itself." The audience erupted. Some clapped, others gasped. The moderator attempted to restore order, but the sound of applause and murmurs drowned out his voice. Kate's face flushed crimson, her forced smile faltering into a grimace. Megan pressed on. She spoke of systemic silence, of ignored cries for help, of traditions used as walls rather than bridges. Her voice rose not in anger, but in power, carrying the conviction of someone who had lived every word she spoke. Meanwhile, Kate sat motionless, her responses growing shorter, less confident. Each attempt to push back was met with Megan's unwavering calm. The cameras captured every detail, The flicker in Kate's eyes, the tightening of her jaw, the subtle shake of her hands. And then came the monologue that would be replayed around the world. Megan leaned into the microphone, her tone sharp yet steady. I did not leave because I wanted to walk away from service. I left because true service cannot coexist with silence. I left because speaking the truth should never be punished. And I left because sometimes stepping away is the only way to be free enough to fight for change. If that makes me guilty, then I will wear that guilt as a badge of honor. The hall exploded in applause. The cameras cut to Kate, her expression frozen, her eyes unblinking. She had no words left. The battle was over. The confrontation